Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tech Bros podcast featuring myself, Egerton.
And me, Raj. Hello.
Hey, Raj, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Good. Why do I sound so energetic?
Maybe it's because you're trying to switch things up.
Yeah, perhaps.
Did you get the joke?
Yes, I got it.
Hooray.
And that's an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. So today we are going to talk about the Nintendo Switch OLED. Or are we not?
Well, we are, but there's also something else we're talking about too.
Uh-huh. Which is Switch and their competitors, aka Steam Deck.
Well, when I say competitors, what I really mean is the Steam Deck, because that's
Steam
like going to
Decks.
be, because I think that's like going to be the main competitor now.
Yeah.
So as of recording this today is the day that the Switch OLED is being released, I believe.
Trumpets everywhere and fanfare.
I believe it's today, or it might be tomorrow.
I think it might be today, actually.
Let's check this because I think. Sorry. Release date is the 8th, so it's actually in 2 days' time. So reviews are starting to come out for it now, which is why it felt like it was releasing, but actually it's releasing in 2 days.
Well, one day if you live in Australia.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, this is a revision to the Nintendo Switch console that both of us own, actually.
Yes.
I've got mine. I've got mine right here. Hold up. There it is. I mean, you can't see it. If anyone wants an audio description, it's the Animal Crossing edition with the minty green and the light blue, sky blue.
Yeah, you see, he got the special one. I just got like the basic one, which was like the blue and the red.
Literally, I'm not like a huge Animal Crossing fan, but I just like the colors.
Are you sure?
I literally just went for it just because I like the colors. I thought the base colors of like the red and the blue were a bit garish.
I like the red and blue one. Well, to be honest, I didn't have a choice because I think I got mine at work, and they already had the red and blue there at the time, and I think also I wasn't actually aware that there was actually other colors then. I thought it was just the red and blue. So to know that there was other colors out there, I was like, oh well, it's a bit
well to start with it's red and blue and then gray, but who wants out special editions with colors relevant to those games. So Splatoon had like a purple and yellow, like bright purple and yellow colors.
Yes, I remember that.
And I think there's just been some like Zelda ones released, which are like dark blue and have like symbols on them as well from the games. So
okay,
they're coming out with new ones. But anyway, we're talking about the Switch OLED. So this is a new version of the console that will £49, which is £50 more than the regular Switch. However, the regular Switch has just gone through a price cut in in Europe, where basically they've chopped off £20 off the price. So it's a little bit cheaper now, but the OLED version is still £350 thereabouts.
It's a lot of money, though.
A lot of people it's a lot of money, and there's been a lot of there were a lot of rumors basically before the OLED was announced as to whether there'd be a Switch Pro. So some consoles have basically Pro editions. So the PlayStation 4 has a PlayStation 4 Pro, and the difference with those is that there was expected to be more more powerful hardware basically behind it, so you could run certain games better, for example.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Switch OLED, it doesn't actually have any changes to the underlying specs really. And instead, they're more aesthetic changes and things like that. So the main thing is obviously the OLED screen. It's a little bit bigger than the regular Switch screen, and it also has now a sort of a backlit screen. So especially if you're playing in an environment where there's a lot of glare, you'll be able to see the screen better.
Exactly.
So basically, what it means is that OLED, when it actually has like the pixels on the screen, they're each sort of lit, and so that makes for sort of better contrast, essentially, and so ultimately a much sort of brighter experience.
Yeah, and just to go over some few more features on here. So you know the rail system that used the Joy-Cons. So I assume the rail system is the ones on the side of the console.
Well, yeah, the Joy-Cons are basically the detachable controllers.
Yeah. So the rail system that the Joy-Cons kind of attach onto has been made more sturdy. So you don't have a lot of wobble when you're using the Joy-Cons. Which, to be honest, I haven't really noticed that per se, even in my one. I didn't really notice mine being wobbly. Raj, does your one wobble?
No, I've never had any of that. I mean, the main issue with Switches that has been reported with the Joy-Cons has been the controller drift. So after repeated use, the sticks start to drift, basically. So, for example, if you're playing a game, you might notice that a character just ends up moving, even though you're not moving the stick. It kind of gets stuck in a particular direction. That's been one of the sort of main issues that's been reported. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be fixed in this new Switch. But
well, you would hope so. You would hope so that it is fixed.
Well, it's one of those things that unfortunately, like, just with the way that sticks are made. I mean, even the new PlayStation 5 there's been reports of this controller drift as well. I think it's just the way that these sticks are currently designed, the sort of hardware that's going on underneath, it just makes it so that repeated use, especially because a lot of games require you to actually click the sticks, because that's sort of a button in of itself, and using that can actually cause some, if you're doing that long term, can cause damage to it.
That is true. That is true. And another thing that has been improved in this version of the Switch is, if you notice, the kind of the plastic kickstand at the back of the console, that little flap, which has actually been extended to the so it's kind of the whole back of the console that kind of the flap comes up rather than that little small flap. Because if you're like me and you've tried that before, that doesn't keep your console up. It's just like that flimsy bit of plastic, and it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, the old kickstand was rubbish.
It was rubbish. It was actually rubbish.
I mean, on the one hand, obviously it's good that they've made this change, but at the same time, it's one of the changes where I think the base console should have just been like this. Like, it should have just had a good kickstand. Because that's one of the things that makes it so that you can perch it on a table and you can like take the controllers off and play on there. Like, obviously that's one of the things, but with the kickstand that they had, it just is very difficult to actually get it to stand up.
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned before, the actual OLED screen having, how can I say, crystal clear? Would I say it's crystal clear?
I mean, it definitely feels clearer just because of the fact that you have that sort of backlit lights on the pixels. It makes it so that it just sort of pops out a little bit more.
Yeah, see, I like that. As long as the graphics look good, I'm happy.
And you also have the ability to, it's a bit hidden, but you can actually cycle through a color mode or standard mode. So basically, it kind of makes it so that there's a special mode within the system now that's kind of optimized for OLED. It kind of changes up the color palette a little bit more and makes it so that it kind of makes use of the OLED screen. It's not a huge difference from what I'm seeing, but it's a nice sort of little addition to have. They have also changed the speaker system, so it's a little bit louder, a little bit better. I think it's not necessarily the best. Well, it's not the most important change because I don't know if necessarily people are playing the Switch using just the speakers rather than headphones. And actually, one thing that was added recently, it's taken a few years, but recently they actually added Bluetooth support to the base Switch. So you don't have to use the headphone port, which I thought, I did wonder why it took so long to get Bluetooth support for it.
Don't we love our Bluetooth support?
Yeah.
So let's move on to another console called the Steam Deck.
Yes. So the Steam Deck is a console that's another handheld console that's being developed by Valve.
Like the Switch?
Sorry?
Like the Switch?
Oh, yeah, like the Switch, yeah. And it's going to be coming out in December, so it's not out just yet, but you can pre-order it now if you feel so inclined. So Valve makes they create Steam, which is essentially a marketplace for PC for games on PC and Mac and that sort of thing. And they've kind of been the leaders in terms of PC games, in terms of where to get PC games. They are obviously the clear market leaders. And so they've announced that they're going to be creating a handheld console that allows you to play games that are on your Steam library. So if you already own a bunch of games on Steam, you can buy the Steam Deck and you'll already have access to your entire library. At least that's what they say. Now, one of the things is that with PC games is that you have the ability to play using your mouse and keyboard. You can play with any other controllers that you want to plug in. But with the Steam Deck, what they're saying is that any game, whether it's a game that requires a mouse, whether it's a game that it requires a controller, that you can play anything on it because it has essentially these sticks, and then it has these touch pads essentially that allow you to use them kind of as if people remember the Steam controller, it's a bit like that because it's not quite a sort of a stick. It's more like a pressure sensitive pad that you can press in different directions.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's sort of it's interesting in that sense because then it means that you have access to your entire games, but also you don't have to pay extra to buy those games again. If you've bought a Switch, you can't get access to your Steam library on it. So in that sense, it's quite a big thing.
Yeah, and just having a look at the prices for the Steam Deck, and apologies, this is actually quoted in dollars, in US dollars. We haven't got the pounds conversion here, but for the 64 gigabyte version, it will cost you $399. The 256 gigabyte version will cost you $529, and the 512 gigabyte would cost you $649. 512 gigabyte is a lot of space, isn't it?
That's a lot. I mean, PC games can be quite big, and I think that especially if you're owning a lot of fairly intensive games, you would probably need to expand your storage with SD cards and stuff like that. Micro SD or SSD, depending on what you would want to expand it to. But obviously that's a lot of space, and you do have to obviously pay for it. Now it is more expensive than the Switch, but it does have some stronger specs as a result of it. So it is a more powerful machine than the Switch.
Yes, and especially where you can stream video, and then other install other games, install other game stores on it as well. That's probably why you are paying what you're paying.
Yeah, Admittedly, I mean, we haven't had a chance to get our hands on it yet, but just by looking at it, I assume that
I
you
like
have,
it.
you've seen the pictures of it. The one thing I am a little unsure about is the fact that the sticks at the top. So basically, you have quite a lot of space in the middle on either side of the screen. So obviously, you have the screen in the middle, and then you have the touchpads that I mentioned on either side of it, which takes up, a fair amount of space.
Yeah.
And then you have the sticks above it, and then to like either side of the sticks is where you have like a small D-pad, and then you have the buttons on the right hand side.
Yeah.
It looks a little bit uncomfortable just in terms of if you have the sticks and you're then going across to the buttons, because the buttons are like right on the edge of the console, right?
Yes.
So it looks a little weird in that sense.
Yeah, I'm even trying to just imagine myself just trying to do it now, and even doing that, it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, it just I don't know how comfortable this actually would be is my only concern. It just feels
Mm,
like the space on either side of the screen, like there doesn't feel like there's a lot of space for your thumbs to move around.
no.
Because of the fact that they've put a lot of the space in the middle towards those touchpads. And maybe that's because they want you to play using those touchpads and primarily, and less use the traditional sticks and buttons. So that could be the case, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, and most people, will want to just use the sticks and buttons, and in which case, like how comfortable that actually is.
Yeah, but I do hope to, get my hands on one of these, just just to try out to see how it actually does feel.
Yeah. Also, the screen on the Steam Deck is 7 inches, and we didn't actually mention this, but the Switch OLED is actually an expanded version of the base Switch, because the base Switch I think was 6.1 or 6.2 inches, and the
Yeah.
new Switch OLED is now slightly bigger, so it's now actually 7 inches as well. So they are both the same screen size, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And so I think that, I mean, this is actually one of the things that I think is really interesting about the Steam Deck, is that I do own, I have games on my Steam account, and there are games that I would play on PC. But I think especially given like the last year, shall we say, last year or two, you kind of work from home and I work at my computer. I don't necessarily feel like staying on my computer to play games on it as well. And that's why something like a Switch is really good, because then you can sort of disconnect from the computer. And I think now that the Steam Deck is coming out, it allows me to then access those games whilst actually being able to, disconnect from my computer. That's the main sort of issue, I think, with playing games on PC, is just that it doesn't feel necessarily like you're relaxing, like it's your downtime, because you're kind of sat at your desk on your computer still.
Yeah. I'm just having a further read on this, in terms of its battery life as well. So with Steam Deck, you are depending on what you do and how tough you are on it. You're only going to get about 2 to 8 hours charge on it.
Yeah,
which is a bit meh, really.
2 to 8 is pretty low, but I mean, I guess I don't really know about the Switch. Is, I think, probably not a huge amount either. I mean, I think it's definitely more than 2, but probably less than 8. I think you're probably looking at 4 to 6 hours on the Switch, at least from my experience. Depending on what it is you're playing and your brightness settings and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Other thing is also that this the Steam Deck is it is wider, it is thicker, and it is heavier than the Switch. So that might the thing about the Switch that's quite nice is that I can take off the Joy-Cons, I can just put it in a little bag, and it's like very light. I mean, it's just, it barely feels like anything. Like, it is very portable, and I think this is definitely portable as well, but it definitely is a little bit weightier. I see here it's actually 670 grams. So it's pretty hefty,
Yeah, it is. It is. And there's something else that this caught my eye, which is a difference between the Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch, is the dock. Because when you buy a Switch, you actually get the dock come with Switch, but with the Steam Deck, you don't get it.
Apparently, it says it comes separately. Yeah.
Yeah, it comes separately, which is a bit of a, and also we don't know at this moment in time what the price of that may be.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it almost is like you're not really comparing it with the Switch, but you're comparing it with the Switch Lite, which is the version of the Switch which only supported handheld play, so it didn't connect to the TV.
Yeah. But it did say that the dock will provide display ports and HDMI outputs, an Ethernet adapter, and 3 USB inputs. So that is much more than what the Switch's dock has anyway.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully it is value for money and not too expensive. I know there's a lot of features on there, but at the same time, the price has to be attractive for people to buy.
Yeah. And also, it does come with Bluetooth as standard, rather than us having to wait, 3 years to actually use Bluetooth on our device. Nintendo.
I
mean, come on now.
Yeah, no, they did take a very long time to bring Bluetooth out, but a good thing they've brought it out now.
Yeah, so I think the thing that's really, ultimately kind of looking at it, I think if you already own a Steam account, you're going to buy this console and you're already going to have games for it, depending on how many games you happen to own in your Steam account.
Yeah.
If you already own loads of games, it's kind of an amazing deal because you don't have to buy those games again. Like if you had already got games on your PC and you bought a Switch, you would have to have bought those games again. And sometimes those, because the Switch is not as powerful, they've either not been ported to the Switch, or the Switch version is maybe like sort of more compromised. They've had to like cut back on things. It maybe doesn't look as good. Graphics wise, they've had to make a slightly less powerful version of the game in order to run it on the Switch. So I think that's maybe what it comes down to, is the existing games that you might have. And I think also the fact that if you're already playing it on PC, you can actually take your the same game, your save files, and you can carry it over between the deck and your PC. So you can play on your Steam Deck, go to PC, and continue from exactly where you've left off, because they already have all your saves in the cloud.
Yeah.
So that's also pretty huge. So I think that's kind of going to be the determining factor of whether you get it, is whether you already are sort of whether you already are into PC gaming, whether you already have a lot of games for it.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely consider looking to get one, depending on what the price is in the UK, and based on the reviews as well, when it does come out, on how it is. So yeah, I'll definitely be looking forward to trying one out in the near future.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing, is just actually looking at it and putting it in your hands. Because I think actually everyone's quite different. I mean, a lot of people have complained that they find the Switch quite uncomfortable to use. I mean, I don't know about you, but I found it quite nice to use, actually.
Yeah, my mom was fine.
It probably does depend on your hands, I guess, to some extent. I just think some people will find some handheld consoles quite uncomfortable to use for different reasons.
I'll say as well, it's dependent on the game, because Mario Kart on a Nintendo Switch is my worst nightmare. I hate it with the Joy-Cons. I hate it.
Yeah, I think if you're playing more slow-paced games, I think it's fine. But yeah, if you're playing stuff that requires you to be a lot more active with your fingers, then it probably is a bit more of a workout. It's probably more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I guess, but probably the other thing is just that they've obviously said that your entire Steam library, it's not like with the Switch you've had to wait for specific releases of Switch versions of these games. What they're saying is that anything that's already on PC, you can play it on the Steam Deck. And they said, and they kind of said that they haven't found anything that doesn't work on the Steam Deck. I'm a little bit hesitant because I feel like there'll be some games that just for whatever reason will not work on the Steam Deck. It could be due to the sort of hardware limitations. It could be to do with the controls as well. Yes. So I think as it comes out, we'll start to kind of see, are there games that don't really work that well on the Steam Deck?
Mm-hmm. We shall see.
But it's very exciting though. I'm quite interested to try it out for sure.
Yeah, me too. Definitely, and see how it is. Hopefully, in those in technology shops, they will have it out on display. So hopefully, we do get the opportunity to try it out. It's a shame because it's a shame as well because I would have thought that probably EGX. They would have had it probably on had it on show ahead of its launch, but we are not going to EGX this year.
Yeah, I don't actually know if they're showing it there either.
No, I don't know. I haven't really checked the what's on because
they could have at least had like a plastic mock-up of it that you could just hold, just so that you can get a sense.
Oh yeah, that would have been perfect.
Like. Yeah, something like that would. Something like that would be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been perfect. But yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see and wait for it to come out and then see from there.
And I think there's one thing just to add is that it is, for the past few years, the Switch has kind of been in its own class. There hasn't been any competitors in terms of any real competitors in terms of handheld gaming.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of have like the home console stuff, the PlayStations, Xboxes, they're doing their own thing. You have the mobile market, which is pretty huge actually in terms of like phones and iPads. But then the Switch is kind of doing its own thing. And now you actually have like a competitor for it that is packing, some serious heat, shall we say.
Yes.
The thing that the Switch will have games you won't get on your Steam Deck. You won't get Mario Kart on it. You won't get Zelda, stuff like that. But ultimately, it's a big sort of competitor in that sense, and it'll be interesting to see how well it actually does, and also whether it actually feels like it's really sort of grabbing some of the market that the Switch really had, or if they're sort of offering two different things, and if they're sort of two different products.
Well, that's all we have on Nintendo Switch and Steam Deck.
Hurrah!
So, as per usual, we hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and don't forget to like, comment, and share. Let us know what you think. If there's any topics that you would like us to discuss, please let us know. Apart from that, it's all from me, Egerton, and all from Raj.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.